Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. The crazy guy next to me here is Brian E. Roach. My name is Joe Kuzma, and what else can we say, folks? The Steelers. We say good teams win the games that they need to win. And I'm going to say that the Steelers are a good team because they have won all of their games now, 7-0, not without some nail-biting. You can't quite see my follicles here. They're all missing. They're all gone. Hair, as you already know, pulled out ages ago. That goes back to maybe Bill Cowher era. But anyways, Brian, my ticker's a ticking and pacing and whatever, and we had discussed perhaps just taking a moment and getting a breather. You know, it's very exasperating sometimes being emotionally invested in these games. But then we said, screw that. We're all pumped up, and this is where you kick a good man while they're down, and that would be the Baltimore Ravens, who put up their best effort, but it wasn't quite good enough. Sorry, guys. Pittsburgh Steelers, final score 28-24. Brian, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. And you know what I got to say? Beep the Ravens. Beep, beep, beepity, beep, beep the Ravens.
Man, folks, Brian's a little fired up, and he's the one who really pushed me into service early today. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I walk around the house looking like big play Bob Spillane. Flexing the guns, really? Even though or Chase does this thing. I got my Chase. I'm rocking the Chase jersey. I saw you had it earlier. You know, you're looking good, my friend. He's got it. I know it was there.
I was
those
too
who can't
hot.
see.
I had to take it. I couldn't wear it no more. I was dying. I was starting to sweat.
I was telling you, and especially, you know, you got all the lights here. I'm in between running air conditioning and heat because I get quite the workout. It's too cool to go outside and just wear like the short sleeves and the long pants. And I got Steelers on head to toe. Trust me, the socks. We don't want to know what Brian's got under the desk. But Brian, we're going to go through this game. I want to start with one thing though that got on my nerves from the start, and it's really it's Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, unfortunately. And it really seemed like they were homering it up for the Ravens today. There were a couple of plays we'll get into a little later on. There's a few penalties where it's like, oh, that's absolutely a penalty. Yeah, because it's against the Steelers. But, I didn't see much of anything there. And that type of stuff just drives me crazy. But it's like when a guy is clearly out of bounds on a catch, it's not a great catch, it's not a great play, it's not a maybe, it's not let me see another angle. He's clearly out of bounds. And there was a play right before that was very similar that it'll be jogged in my brain. Oh, Lamar Jackson, it was a giant hold on Bud Dupree or Henry Mondo. Henry Mondo. And it's like, it doesn't count. They cheated. That's why it's a flag. It's not some amazing Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson. It does not count. The key
to that is the play doesn't happen if you're not cheating. Mondo makes the play, and therefore you have nothing to talk about, so shut up.
It's like, I remember several years ago, there was a James Conner one-handed catch, and he ended up out of bounds. Does not count. One of my favorite plays of all time, Antonio Brown, all those laterals, and much like Rutgers yesterday, that was my AB getting in at the end against Miami Dolphins in the snow and just stepped out about that far out of bounds, just a little tinch. Does not count. That's not horseshoes and hand grenades. It's black and white. It just doesn't count. But I think the big thing is here, did either of us, this is about the way, number one, this is about the way we felt this game was going to go. Back and forth.
I mean, here's the thing. Ravens-Steelers games are easy to diagnose. They're always going to come down to almost the end of the game. They're going to be close. They're never going to be blowouts except on the very rare occasion. They're good teams. Both of them are good teams. Good. We said this. It's not, it's despite all my beep the Ravens. And let me just tell you, there was a ton of that. Every time we scored, the stream of profanity coming out of my mouth at my TV towards the Ravens was causing my daughter to chuckle hilariously, and maybe causing birds to fall dead out of the sky. I don't know. But these teams, they're just two good teams. They're two very well-run organizations, and they are built much like each other. They're playing each other in many ways. Their defenses are very tough. Their offenses are very tough. They play hard-nosed, old-school football, and it's always that way with these two. So yeah, it's not hard to predict this is going to be a close game. It is going to be a close game. Is it always got to be a nail-biter like this one was, down to the very last play? Maybe not always like that, but more often than not. I mean, they did show a statistic on the broadcast. All the games that were decided by less than 7 points, the total combined score between the two teams is so close it's ridiculous. So, it's going to be that way. You have to think it's going to be that way. And sure enough, it was. It just was. Now, I got to say something about Tony Romo and Jim Nantz. Here's the thing, and somebody, one of our many fans, followers, friends, people who listen to us and pretend that we actually know what the hell we're talking about.
Oh, wait a minute. I do. Pat on my back. I said neither of these two teams were scoring 30 points today.
You're right.
And I nailed it again for another week. I also said the same thing about Derrick Henry with 100 yards, something about Ben, something about James Conner. I've been money. So if you want to go look at my prediction next week, I will probably be 1,000% wrong and made to look like a fool. But at least for the time being, I can give us some credibility here. That's
true. Remember back when I first started with you and me started together, when we first were doing stuff, I made you do that Karnak thing.
Oh, yes.
There you go. You get the hat now. You're the Karnak guy. I'm not the Karnak guy now. You are. Anyway, they responded with that Tony Romo was annoying him, and my tweet response was, at the time we were losing, and when we're losing, every announcer annoys us. It doesn't matter who they are. We are annoyed with every announcer when we're losing. And to be fair, we also think every announcer is against us. They're all against us, and we have to keep that mentality up. Everyone is against us.
And the referees.
Oh, my God. Don't even start me on them this time.
Yeah, but okay, go ahead. Continue. We don't want to we'll get there. We're going to get there.
Yes. So I get it. And yes, I did shout at Tony Romo over that exact same play. I said, you can't keep, stoking your fires over this Lamar Jackson run when it didn't count, because it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a blatant hold. And that hold then got called, amazingly enough, considering the number of them that didn't get called. That were also just as blatant, and were also on camera, and were visually seen by anybody who cared to look, except for
Brad Allen and his officiating team. Yeah,
stupid refs. All right, I got to start it off with this. I don't care whether you think he was going out of bounds or not going out of bounds. I don't care if you think the play was over. Lamar Jackson had 2 damn feet in bounds when Cam Hayward hit him. That's not a freaking penalty. Ever. And if it is, then you need to change the damn rule. And you need to call that same penalty on them when they hit James Conner when he was standing right next to the thing, but wasn't out of bounds yet. Every receiver who catches the ball on the sidelines and gets whacked. Oh, now it's a personal foul. Idiots. They're idiots. This was the
No, it's going to be the same thing when they pick up the flag on Ben. The guy, I kind of turned in sideways and hit him late. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Referee, man. And they discussed it. That would be okay with me had they done it earlier. Yeah. But now that you did it, it's balance. It's the scales of balance. And the scales of balance, forgive me if I bump the mic, they're not even. They're not even. The scales of balance, justice, whatever it is, it's not justice when they're uneven. So it's just, okay, this is what I was going to get at before we get into the various plays of the game or whatever. What did we say? Limiting Mark Andrews to do nothing. 3 for 32. We said Willie Snead could put a dent in this D. He's capable. 5 for 106. Do you care? I'm going to say I do not give a rat's you-know-what, where the sun doesn't shine, brother, that the Ravens ran 47 times for 265 yards. You know why? is it doesn't matter. You don't. These NFL teams, what do they want to do ultimately? What's the goal? Hold the Baltimore Ravens under 100 yards rushing, but lose the game? No. The whole objective is to win the game. And you're going to win the game. Hey, they had the time of possession. We're going to talk about this. First half offense absolutely stunk, did not do the defense any favors, kept them out there for long periods of time. Maybe they get a little gassed, but at the same time, the clock's ticking. Tick, 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 tick. Let it tick. It's their time when they're trailing. It's your time when it's the other way around. And that's perfectly how the end of this game, that's how the end of this game ends up turning out. Precisely how it ends up turning out. And we're going to get to that here in a second. But people are going to say, oh, well, so much for that great run D or whatever. We knew this was the number one run attack coming in. You just had to make sure that they didn't beat you by doing other things. They had a few big plays downfield, some other stuff. But it all is going to start with that play that you mentioned with Lamar Jackson. But we got to get there first. First game with some fans in the stands, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. I got to get down here to actually look at. Yeah, I don't really want to see ball possession and drive chart because it was fumble, punt, and still a punt until the Steelers offense finally rips off some touchdown drives here. But it was a pretty ugly situation. What was it? The Steelers had 5 first downs to the Ravens 16 in the first half. Yet it was only a 10-point game. It was 17-7. It could have been much worse. It could have been much better also. But you had the Steelers 0 for 3 on third downs. You had the Ravens 5 for 8, 63%. You had to hope to yourself with the Ravens outgaining them 254 yards to 64. I don't know if we have a time of possession in here or not. But you had to hope that something better was going to happen. Ben was currently at a 47.9 rating at this point. He was 4 for 10. He had been sacked once, had nothing else really to show for here. Lamar Jackson didn't have a whole lot to show for either at this point, and that's really how this game unfolds. You're probably, I don't know if you were losing your mind like I was. I couldn't believe the ball was caught. I thought Ryan Shazier was out there. Robert.
Billy.
I don't.
Spilly.
Spilly.
Just call him Spilly.
Bobby Spilly. Bobby Boucher.
Football. Bobby Boucher. Spilly football. Damn yeah.
Oh, I love the number 41. I'm gonna, you know what? We might have to scratch this up.
I gotta get one.
Yeah,
I gotta get a Spilly jersey now. There's no option. I can't wear it this year because Chase is 7-0, so I can't wear it. But I gotta get one.
So it's gonna have to take somebody breaking this streak headed towards the. People bring up the Miami Dolphins. We're not even the 72 Dolphins. We're not even halfway through yet. You start getting into like week 15 and they're still unbeaten. Then let's talk. We get to like Thanksgiving and they beat the Ravens again and they're still undefeated. Okay, and then we could start talking because we talked about how like you get the Washington football team and some other scrubs that are thrown in there towards the end. But Lamar Jackson, this is the third play, 3rd and 6, intended for James Prochet, intercepted by Spilly, 33-yard touchdown to the house. I was going absolutely nuts, and then I didn't have anything to celebrate for a while. And you're like, that's the only points they got the entire half. Within the first minute of the game on a pick 6, the first one that Lamar Jackson has thrown, because rightfully so, as someone else said, what was it, Eric Herman, one of our guys said, maybe they shouldn't let Lamar throw the ball anymore, and that's why they let him limit him. And I don't think he's used to seeing the defensive looks, and it's not a surprise to me, because the teams within this division are all going to try and be equipped and built to beat themselves and perhaps another opponent, perhaps like in the past, the Patriots, now the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the way you're building your team to get to the Super Bowl, because you know you're going to have to climb the mountain against everyone in your division and then maybe somebody else in your conference that's going to be a very common opponent that's always getting into the dance as well in that postseason. So that's the way I've viewed the Steelers and the Ravens as an arms race, particularly with them getting Yannick Ngakoue and also, the off seasons that both of these teams have had and the way they're built. The Ravens, no doubt, loaded up that secondary based on what the Steelers have in the secondary. The Steelers add yet another tight end with Eric Ebron. They've been trying the multiple tight end thing for a few years because I think that's where they see there's holes or weaknesses in the opponents that they play. And Eric Ebron had some half-solid plays today, and I was just screaming at the TV, hold on to the ball, because it was terrifying me at certain points. But you get the Steelers defense right back on the field. There's a sustained 9-play, 75-yard drive where the Ravens tie this all back up. And then the Steelers start again on their own 16. There's a penalty, illegal block above the waist, of course, enforced. Ray McLeod has emerged as a weapon on special teams. He is, long gone was the other guy. His name began with an R, too. What was his name? Smaller guy. He was supposed to be like the next Wes Welker or something. He was on the roster. It doesn't. Hey, I don't know. It's Swifty, Switz. No, he wasn't Swifty. Switz was Swizzler, something or other. But
Twizzler, yeah. Twizzler. Red Vines. His name was Red Vines.
I don't know. It doesn't really ring a bell. He's that quickly forgotten by the job that Ray McLeod has done so far in the return game, both kicking and punting. So I know some people were probably going a little nuts here when the Steelers finally do get the ball, and Marcus Peters forces a fumble. I don't know what the heck you do there, man. It's like the way Claypool catches this ball, I don't know that he has a firm enough grasp of it to begin with. It's almost one of those things where I want to say if Peters didn't have his hand in there, it may not even been a catch. Or it may have been a catch, but it's one of those crooked arm, like you used to see AB do the unthinkable Houdini and catch the ball or whatever. But regardless, that's what it ends up being. Right after you had a pass interference call where Marcus Peters mugs James Washington, which was, pretty cut and dry to me and Tony Romo. They have these like little short BS replays that CBS has been using that don't quite show you the entire play. They clip it at odd spots, and that was an odd spot because he grabbed at him at least twice. You're seeing at the tail end of it, and then you're like, oh, well, that's not much of anything. But if you saw the full thing in real time, it sure looks like he impeded his progress there. But anyways, Marcus Peters, as we said, the guys in the secondary, him and Marlon Humphrey, are capable of doing. They create turnovers. Now all of a sudden you got another headache here with the Steelers, but Steelers defense going to come through on the next series. Bud Dupree, this is down at the 8-yard line in the red zone, steals Lamar Jackson's lunch. Tony Romo's thinking it's an incomplete pass. Just like, stop it, man. See, it's not the bias. It's what he says. You go back and watch this if you have the ability to, and you'll see that. But great job by the defense there. And then you have the very scary Jordan Berry 34-yard punt where you think, oh, dear Lord, now we're going to have the Ravens come down the field or whatever. But the defense holds. We're into the second quarter. Sam Cook ends up punting 36 yards himself, trying to pin us, within a 20. It gets down to the 10. A little bit different than trying to get some distance, which Jordan Berry did not get. Yeah. And you get down to, let me see here, some bad snaps by Pouncey. Maybe it was the wet field. I'm not sure. There was some low. There was some high. Even Jordan Berry got one that was like, whoop, off to the side. That was almost Chris Berman, like, whoop. One of those things. Not quite John Madden. But anyways, Brian, Barry rattles off a 47-yard punt. You got the Ravens get the ball here with lots of time to go, and I'm just kind of like, this is going kind of back and forth, but something's got to give because the offense really at this point has generated nothing substantial to help give these guys a breather. Yeah,
that's the biggest problem in the first half. I mean, look, in the first quarter, the defense played admirably. Were they perfect? No, they gave up a touchdown. But they caused two turnovers, and you'll take that. It is glaring. I mean, you mentioned this before. You don't care about the rushing stats. I get it. I'll take the win and give up 200 yards rushing any day, but it is concerning to a certain extent to see that. But at the same time, people forget Tyson Alualu is out of the game. Yeah. Isaiah Buggs comes in, and Tomlin himself said it. Didn't play well in the first half. Had to get his legs. But boy, did that young man come through in the second half. Boy, did he step up his game. Anyway.
And grown ass man.
Yeah, I got a bunch of them. I got a bunch of them in this game. And it's really it's hard to make judgments about that because look, the Ravens had a bye week. They're coming off of a bye week. They had 14 days to prepare for this game. Of course, they're going to have a game plan that should work to a certain extent, and they did. And then the Steelers adjusted and shut that poop down. And then
now that we're on video, am I going to have to get like one of those black sensor bars to put over your mouth? Don't give me more work to do on the post-production end of this.
I haven't said it. I didn't say it. I want to. Oh, my goodness. I said poop. And poop is a cute word, so it's okay. It's family friendly. It's cute.
You ever see the toys these kids got? Everything's like glittery poop, unicorn poop, and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't get it, but that's what they're all into it. Just as long as they're not playing with the real thing. Anyway,
we got distracted.
Yes.
Anyway,
it was your fault.
It is. I got to talk about Jordan Berry because yes, Berry comes in and reminds us why we don't like him. But then he does a nice job. The other, again, he steps up his punts the second part of the game. I don't think he had another bad punt in the game after that first one. They were decent punts, got the guys down where they needed to be. He pinned them in the 7 once, got him inside the 20 another time. He did have one that wasn't great, but again, bad with the good with them. It was definitely interesting because at the end of the first half, you just knew they had to make some changes. They had to make adjustments. You hoped they would. And it's funny how this mirrors the Titans game in the sense that it's a tale of two halves. Steelers were terrible in the first half, continuation of the second half of the Titans game. Second half, different story. Totally different story. And I'll take it. As long as we come out with the W, I don't care how many halves we play bad.
Well, my thought was this, and it was the same thing you said. The Ravens came off of a bye. They're fresh. Let's beat up this team. I think that was their thought process was let's run. Let's grind them down. It was pouring down rain before that game kicked off. If you follow any of the beat reporters, they had talked about it poured for hours and the field was slick and things of that nature. And you saw some guys stumble a little short here or there. James Conner had particular trouble cutting the way he likes to cut. Young man, you need to check your footwear, get some different shoes or something if that be the case. I understand the NFL fields, I mean, they're like putting greens, the way they cut it. They have regulations for how high the grass can be, how low the grass can be. Everything's cut. There's rules for everything when it comes to that. Even the paint for the sidelines, you can't have like a too thick, too thin stripe, everything like that. So that's why it always looks the way it looks. This isn't like you go to a high school field and it's like, okay, there's trenches across the middle of this grass, or somebody hasn't cut this thing for 2 weeks because we didn't pay the guy. But for those schools that don't have the multi-purpose or artificial turf and the field turf stuff. But anyways, where were we at? We were at the Jordan Berry had the nice 47-yard punt, but the Ravens come back, run. I'm like, man, this team, they're tired. They had a war last week. Now they're coming against a fresh team. I don't care what you got to say about the Ravens and losing Ronnie Stanley. Yes, that absolutely hurts them. Should benefit the Steelers, but it's no gimme. You see, we throw in Chukwuekwor for Kevin Dotson for an All-Pro and Dave DeCastro and do the same thing. So any given Sunday, you could have a guy that even has just one great game. And I'm going to go back to Spilly for a second here. If he never does anything ever again, man, this last 2.5 games that he's played is such...
He's a legend. He's a beeping legend.
Yes, such a he will go down in folklore and Steelers folklore and have many great stories to tell the grandkids around the fire. So anyway,
one of these is going to slip out. I'm just
no. See, that's why
I'm going to try hard not to have one slip out, but it's going to slip out.
You know what? My
I'm
uncle.
Too hype.
My uncle was in the Army. My dad was a truck driver, and somehow I keep a lid on it. So come on, man. You know me off the camera. So
it's
I'll
my
type
native
it.
tongue. I'm hype. I can't. I'm so pumped up right now. I can't even believe it.
My iPhone has gotten used to just thinking I like to talk about ducks all the time, and it's just that's not the word I'm trying to type. But anyway,
I am so lucky that text to speech is smart enough to know to put asterisks on all my tweets when I say this stuff. Yeah, very rarely do I actually if the actual curse word goes on my tweet, it's because I typed it. If I use text to speech or speech to text, it puts asterisks on everything, which is great.
But you're worried every time that the Ravens score. You're just like, oh, is this going to be it? You've seen them, walk all over everyone else. And at no point was I that concerned. I just didn't want to lose a game by Justin Tucker's foot. Ironically, the kickers didn't have a whole lot of say in this game. He had the one field goal. Boswell, just the extra points, didn't even get to attempt one there. So the Steelers really, they shoot themselves in the foot here. And you get Matt Judon thrown out too. And I want to talk about that for a second. It was just, you didn't get anything clear, I think, on camera what the heck was going on. Of course, Peters and Deontay Johnson were probably talking smack. They've probably been going at it already for a good time because we're halfway through the second quarter. So one guy takes offense to whatever. It looked like Judon was almost trying to be a peacemaker over there because he kind of breaks up the fight at first. Then
I don't see it that way.
No, I did initially. Then I think he gets caught up in the hysteria, and one of his own guys is like grabbing him, or somebody's there, or somebody, and he starts swinging like a madman and catches a referee, and it's just like, and he actually took more than one swipe at that referee. You can't do that when the guy's there, and unfortunately, sometimes the referees get caught in the heat of the battle too. Whether sometimes they don't try and break some of these things up, or the best they could do is blow a whistle because you're not going to put your hands on somebody else, because then all kinds of things happen, and this is like part of the byproduct of that. Of course, if you're in the kitchen and the heat's turned up, somebody's getting ejected, and it's against the rules. You can't skirt that. That's what I'm trying to say. What ended up the end product. But I think he got in there initially. I didn't think he got in there to start more trouble, but it ended up that he got in trouble himself. And it's always going to catch. We always talk about the third guy. You always see the guy who retaliates, and then there's always that third guy in there, and he's the third guy in there, and it's never good to be the third guy in there. They almost always get in trouble as well. So whenever there's scrums, fights, any type of sports, that third guy, watch for the third guy. You heard it here, okay? This isn't just a hat rack. So don't give me that look, Brian. They're pointing at my head and trying to tell him I got some intellect here. Intellect. I'm sharing the knowledge with the listeners out there.
You do have intellect, absolutely.
A little bit, yeah. Okay, I know. So David DeCastro, 3rd-7, shoots the Steelers in the foot here. They're on the 35. I don't know that they try a field goal here. And then Ben gets sacked, and they're definitely not going to do anything. There's a fumble and a recovery, and all this is just garbage. And there's a nice little 34-yard punt. This is why net punt yards is just a garbage statistic, and I try to tell people that. I was even saying that with Colquitt, but I am thinking we saw Colquitt with that crazy hold and getting the ball down on the one extra point. I'm thinking that was the nail in the coffin for him the week before or 2 weeks ago. I think that had more to do with him than it did his punting or anything like that. I think there were other elements of his special teams game that maybe we aren't privy to being in those circles or in those conversations, and you don't necessarily catch it on camera. That one was caught on camera. So just bringing that up, but they're out of range here, so you get a 34-yard punt, and this time it's a good 34-yard punt because it ends up getting fair caught by Prochet on the Baltimore 8. You get down to the 2-minute warning. Lamar Jackson, I made a comment in the back rooms. He's trying to one-hand this thing like he's Michael Vick. I don't know if he's got the same hand size or grip or strength, but we've seen him lose footballs more than once, one occasion like that, and he nearly loses that again, and you're out of your mind because there's a couple times, because he's such an elusive, fast guy. Yeah. The Steelers probably, anybody else, they would have gotten him. But now you have Joe Hayden interception, which I swear, Brian, I watched a game. Was it the Thursday night game or the Monday night game or a Sunday night game? There was a catch in the game where the ball hit the turf. Maybe it was Adam Thielen. Maybe it was Thielen. It was like his fingertips were right on the ground. This ball hits the ground. They challenge it. They rule it still a catch as they did on the field. I'm okay, again, with them saying that this Joe Hayden thing was not an interception. But if you go back, you could find another play. Jesse caught it, particularly, or something like that. But there was another play just in this last week that I saw where something similar happened and the Twitterverse blew up. I was looking at it like, how can you say that's a catch? It's just absolutely crazy. They're saying this as an interception. I wasn't so particularly bothered by this, but this play, this drive, 15 plays, 59 yards. They end up holding the Ravens to only a field goal after all of this is said and done. So much stuff that's going on. And then finally, Justin Tucker kicks that 51-yarder. Of course, he's money. 3 seconds remaining. Clock ticks off. Everyone goes to the locker room, and you're hoping, let's make some adjustments for the second half.
Yeah, I will say this. I said this to somebody else on Twitter. The tragedy of NFL refereeing is that it doesn't matter what they rule. You can find them ruling the exact opposite thing at some other point. You simply cannot trust any decision they make, and that's unfortunate. That's how bad they stink. There is literally always a juxtaposition for every call they decide to make. This time, with that interception, I believe that's the right call. I don't think it was an interception. I think it was a great defensive play. It was close, but the ball helped him keep the ball. The ground helped him keep the ball.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That means it's an incomplete pass, which is fine. But the fact that you can go back to just this week and find a similar play ruled the other way is my problem with the refereeing in the National Football League, and is why you simply can't help but rail against it. Now, I did say the refs in this game, did they have an impact on the game? Absolutely they did.
Mm-hmm.
Are they why the Steelers were trailing early on? No. But they do impact the game. And when they're this bad and this inconsistent, and I just spit all over my table, but I did a Bill Cowher.
Oh, jeez.
The jaws coming out, the chin. When they're this bad and this inconsistent, it can have an impact. And it's really unfortunate when that impact actually causes a result to be different than what it would have been based on the play. It didn't happen today, and I'm saying it didn't. And it probably wouldn't have. The calls that they screwed up, I don't know that they would have necessarily changed the outcome.
Oh, yes.
But
the very first one, the Cam Hayward deal with
that was huge.
It's 3rd and 7. It's 3rd and 7. It's the very first Ravens drive after the Robert Spillane pick 6. Minka has Lamar Jackson wrapped up. He is trying to stay in bounds, obviously, to try and get a first down here. And Hayward shoves them both, and their momentum takes them out of bounds. And you're bailing out the Ravens based on what you think you saw instead of what actually happened.
Well, this is the ticky-tack crap.
And then they end up scoring. This drive continues, and they end up scoring, and it ends up eating almost 5.5 minutes of clock.
Yeah, this is the stuff that bothers me, because this is a call that if it's Ben on the sidelines, doesn't get made.
No.
This is a call that is protecting the quarterback. But with this particular quarterback especially, guys like this, who have made a reputation for themselves about doing that cutesy crap of stopping at the sidelines and spinning, you don't take any chances with them. If he's in bounds, you nail that son of a gun, right? You blast his ass right out the side, which is what Cam Hayward did, and that's exactly what he should have done. I got no sympathy. It's a completely wrong call, and I don't care how you want to throw on it and say, oh, well, he was headed out. Minka had him wrapped up. His game is playing around that way. His game is making elusive moves, and if he's in bounds, he ain't down. Blast his ass.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. And you're talking about, I don't know, where was the line of gain here? Let me see. So it's 3rd and 7. He only ran for a yard. He only gained a yard. It would have been 4th and 6 from they're at the 42. I thought maybe if it was 4th and 1, even 4th and 2, they're pretty aggressive on offense. I'm like, they're going to go for it. That was the same thing with Tony Romo towards the end of this game. He was talking about them kicking it when they're down 4 points. If it was like 4th and 6, I'm like, no, not this offense. This offense goes for it. They'll go for it on 4th and 12 instead of kicking it sometimes, even with one of the best kickers in the game. Maybe the best kicker I don't know. Close to it, I guess. Maybe he is. He's definitely up there, top 2 or 3 or whatever. But anyway, I had to go back to that because that is the type of stuff that ends up altering games. They don't get any points off of this. You don't know what else happens. The rest of it is all up to what ifs and speculation, but you do know that drive ends right there, and they don't get 7 off of that drive, and they end up tying the game, and that would have been a huge momentum shift because then the Steelers offense would have got the ball and that defense would have got a little more of a break, and maybe that first quarter looks a little bit different than what it ended up being. But anyway, I digress. We're back to the third quarter now. Oh, and another point that you did make, yes, you can't treat Lamar Jackson like Tom Brady when Lamar Jackson's trying to go out there and be like Adrian Peterson or somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's playing like a running back. They said it later in the game when he came up the middle, and was it Tuitt or somebody else, or Minka maybe, got a helmet right into his chest, and they're like, well, now you're a runner and you don't get quite the same protections. Oh, well, that would have been novel to have in the first quarter. Like, it was close on the sidelines. I just don't understand. And there's no whistling the play dead or anything like that either. So these guys are going to play until there's a whistle. And then after the fact, you're punishing guys for playing hard and playing aggressive and playing for a whistle. I had a lot of problems with that play, and it could have ended up being one that, really determined the outcome of this game. And thankfully it didn't. So Steelers offense comes out. They had deferred to start. That also amazed Tony Romo, even though the Steelers only did it once the entire year. They've been deferring the whole time every time they win, with the exception that they wanted to throw Ben out there first and put the pedal to the floor and finally score. By the way, the Patriots, everybody was talking. Remember when they were the darlings? They still haven't scored in the first quarter yet on offense all season. So, and of course they're the big losers today too. So that division's slipping away as the Dolphins and the Bills are finally, for the first time in 25 years or whatever, are finally got some competitive teams going there. But you're a little disappointed at what the Steelers do here. They had the ball at the 49, another 34-yard Jordan Berry punt. Goes out of bounds. Whatever. You know what I mean? Trying to pin somebody within their 20. They do. They get the ball at the 17, and all of a sudden, if you told me at the beginning of the game, or if we should have made much bolder predictions, Brian.
We should have.
Yeah, we should have said Robert Spillane's going to have a pick six, and Alex Highsmith is going to have an interception. And what a play. I mean, he drops into coverage, which the outside linebackers have been doing far less frequently, and I think that's exactly what threw Lamar Jackson for a loop there, because he went with his assignment. He dropped into his zone, and it was just right there for the taking, right into his mitts. And
I'll be interested to see what the snap counts. I saw 56 out on the field a lot today, and I'm encouraged by that, because I'm very high on Alex Highsmith, and I'm glad he got that interception. I'm rooting for this kid to get his first sack any day now, because he's exciting to watch. But I am encouraged. He's playing, and that that doesn't happen often for rookies. We know that.
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. And particularly with how many bodies that the Steelers have, it's particularly inspiring, too, as we said, Bugsy there being a grown-ass man getting in there.
Yep.
Because he's essentially the third-string guy, Alou, and then Chris Wormley he was inactive, right, for this game?
He's on IR.
Did he? Yeah. That's right. That's right. So, yeah, I knew he was hurt. I just forgot they put him on IR the other day. And then they call up Trey. They called Trey Edmonds up to the active roster. So, anyways, yeah, it didn't take Ben long to get this going, and they still kept going to James Conner. I thought James Conner had some success, but what we started to see happen here is that the Steelers said, you know what, screw it. They want to run the ball and get our defense tired. We're not going to let them substitute. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, Randy, this is Ben calling all the plays and this and that. And
I got to tell you this, because I don't know if you had a chance to see it. There's a great quote from his interview after the game.
Okay.
He said, I'm known for, they say I'm great at, schoolyard football, but he was literally making plays up in the huddle. He's making up stuff in the huddle. I mean, it's Ben, so you kind of, how much of that is really 100% true, I don't know. But if that's true, Yeah, I'm ready for Ben to just call his own plays the whole damn game.
But somebody has to give the go-ahead for some of that, too.
Yes.
They get their head out of their rear end and say, this isn't working and we're doing some other stuff. And I do want to say they didn't abandon the run entirely. I thought Connor was good. But then when they decided, hey, we're not going to substitute, they just went all empty set. He was basically off the field. You had some combination with Eric Ebron. You even had Ray out there a little bit, too, who made a clutch catch at some point as well. But Ben catches Eric Ebron here for 18 yards and a TD, and then for whatever reason, too many men on the field for a special teams play that you have to go back out and kick again, which I think is penalizing the offense. That's the defensive team that makes that mistake. The offensive team should be able to say, screw you, we made the extra point, how dare you make it? Because imagine if they missed. That penalizes the Steelers instead. That's not the way the penalty is supposed to work. That one is just a little bizarre there for me. I did not care for that at all.
Here's the problem. It's a dead ball foul.
Yeah, I understand that.
But then the problem is, don't let him snap the ball, you
exactly. And that's what you can't really see everything Tomlin's saying because he's got the full neck gator thing going. He's complaining to these guys.
I'm sure that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. And look, I will tell you, and we'll get to this at the end. Harbaugh's gonna have his own complaints with the refs at the end of this game. So, and some decisions that they chose to make that I don't agree with.
Clock.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm gonna get there. You know what? I'm actually kind of okay with it. But we'll get there in a second. There's a 3-and-out here. Ravens ball, 13:21 left in the third quarter. This is already the fourth possession by a team, and you haven't even burned 2 minutes of the third quarter. Just going to show you how this game goes back and forth. The Steelers finally sustained a good offensive drive here, and they had mixed it up. Ben kept trying to find some guys downfield. You had Bonds covering, was it Ray McLeod here, pass interference play. That was a pretty big one. They kept trying to find Chase Claypool. I know at least on one of these, was it Deontay Johnson? That was it. That may have even been the one that started this quarter. Actually, that felt like almost a makeup call. That's right, Brian. The first drive of this, it was, let me see here. Where did Ben go for Deontay Johnson? 3rd and 10 from the 49.
Yeah.
There was 3 different chances they had to call pass interference on that. He got tugged, he got armbarred, and then he got pulled on the inside of the pads on the front of the jersey. And it's like, and you saw none of that, and you're just going to allow that to go, even though you're letting you're throwing hankies for everything else. It was, go ahead, my friend, get it out of your system.
Yeah, there's a friend. I actually have a friend who's a Ravens fan. I know.
I'm sorry.
That may sound strange, but it's true. And for the most part, he's a reasonable guy. And I agree with him on this. The call that Ray got was kind of ticky-tack and baloney, but it was a makeup call for the ridiculously failed PIs that should have been called on Jimmy Smith, who didn't get him called because of reputation, I guess. I don't know. Either that or, I guess the ref was picking his nose at the time or something, or
you're not supposed to do that. There's COVID and stuff going around. It's,
Yeah. I don't know. You're not supposed to touch your face. Stop touching your face, ref. Maybe, like I said, maybe he was touching something else and I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Mark Andrews converts a 3rd down here after the Steelers get this 10-play, 77-yard drive that ends in a 1-yard James Conner touchdown. And you had all of this good stuff pretty much going on this drive, although it made you go crazy a little bit. Ben gets sacked, holds onto the ball a little bit too much here or there. But, Ben, he finds Juju Smith-Schuster a couple of times. He definitely had a very strong, looked like a very
ass man game for Juju.
Yes, very, very strong. Very strong. Could have even scored there. James Conner ends up getting in here. You have 21-17 now. The Steelers have scored, where were we? 14 unanswered, right?
Yep.
So it was 17-10 at half. So the Ravens, they have 3rd down. They find Mark Andrews. It feels like they should have never found them after all this scrambling around and everything else that happens. And then he fumbles, and it was Cam Sutton in coverage. And they even covered him with guys like Steve Nelson was roaming around a lot in the secondary, and they had Justin Lane playing outside on count of no Mike Hilton. And we had talked about how Sutton had been playing some safety looks, some dime backer looks in previous games where they had 3 safeties on the field. They had Marcus Allen was out there since Ulysses Gilbert was inactive in this game as well. Once again, a back injury. You got to hope that's not something that's going to linger, go on for too long, because that doesn't tend to help you in the NFL. And the same thing they were saying with Deontay maybe having a hamstring. The back and the hamstring thing, I could tell you from experience, those two things are linked together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. It just one thing goes, the other thing goes. It's not pretty. So hopefully, some of these guys can rest up and be all right, including Cam. But it seemed like Cam Hayward was walking around okay. We'll get to that with the clock stoppage here in a second. But they got lucky here again, and Spilly almost makes another save. And I almost thought maybe from the way that Tony Romo was talking this up here was he kind of had the ball, and then he was out of bounds, and then the ball comes loose. Do you have enough there to maybe challenge it? I don't know.
Look.
I don't think so in real time.
In real time, you'd never see it. It looks like he's just throwing. When you look at it in replay, do I think that he might have had the ball? Maybe. Can I tell where his legs were in relation to when he actually possessed the ball? No. Do I think prior to the fact that the one thing that I thought was going to be overturned wasn't overturned, would I have thought the Steelers were going to get that play overturned? No, not in a million years, because Al Riveron is an idiot. But then Al Riveron must have heard my thoughts, because he didn't overturn the one that I thought for sure he was going to overturn, even though I agree you can't use the same body part down twice to get inbounds. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, we're getting there. Let me see.
Tony Romo should have known that, you idiot.
Well, the Ravens had some sort of record that was streak that was going to be snapped, and he thought, maybe they're actually going to go for it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're thinking about right now in a heated division rivalry against
that
an
one,
undefeated
I'm sure
team.
He was being sarcastic.
I
sensed the sarcasm in that comment.
Well, he gets sacked by Stephon Tuitt, another grown-ass man
today. Stephon Tuitt was doing it to it. He was the guy that we saw last year today. He was disruptive as all get out. He was all over the place. He was nailing people left and right, not in an inappropriate way. But I don't know
where buying out of the gutter.
I don't know where that came from.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Baseball's over now. Nothing comes out of left field.
Well, that did. Anyway, another grown-ass man. Stephon Tuitt, I've been waiting for you to be a grown-ass man all season, and boy, were you one today.
Lamar Jackson scrambled up the middle for 20 yards, the best thing since sliced bread, except for Matt Skura, the center, who holds Henry Mondow. And it's just like, I didn't think it was the best thing since sliced bread. I thought he should have been tattooed there as well.
He should have been. Mondow was going to tear him up.
Yeah, and Spillane just blew up Gus Edwards on the play right before that, too. But they get all of it back on this play to Willie Snead, and you're just some type of busted coverage. And I think this is what happens when you start to move guys like Steven Nelson around and Justin Lane, and guys are playing a little bit out of position. So, again, I'm not beating myself up over it. These are the things you're trying to do, adjustments you're trying to make in order to win the game. They can win small battles, but don't let them win the war. So, and if you think I'm crazy, this is something that I was pulling off of or gleaning off of. I think I was listening to. I'm trying to think who the former GM with Bill Polian. Bill Polian is one of the guys that's on one of these morning drive shows or whatever on Sirius XM. I was listening to him, and he was discussing this a lot, because there are some teams that have absolute trash seasons that aren't very good, or the Seahawks is one example here. Their defense has been absolutely abysmal, but they're not worried about, hey, do you think they care they're giving up 400 yards of offense to the opponents? No, they don't, because they're putting up 40 points a game or whatever it be. It's almost kind of like the Chiefs from a year ago. And this is the same way I'm equating this to the Steelers is, obviously they don't want to give up a score here because they go down 24-21. That's not what I'm trying to insinuate at this point. But there's certain battles that you're going to lose. You're just trying to overall win the war. And here you got to feel pretty good about yourself with there being about 12 minutes left and the Steelers getting the ball and only down 3 points. At the very most, you got to be able to get into field goal position and give Boswell a chance to tie this up. That's where you think the game script is going. But you're aided here by some penalties. The Steelers are, rightfully so, a face mask on Ray McLeod. He almost got his head turned around like the Exorcist doll or girl or whatever. Yeah. By the way, my kid cleaned up on the candy for Halloween too. So
Nice.
yeah, we got some good stories about that. But I won't get off of this train that we're on right now because this is getting to the good stuff, my friend. Ben found Juju Smith-Schuster 3 consecutive times. Then he went to go find Chase Claypool, and Marlon Humphrey got his hand caught in the cookie jar there again. It's like these guys are kind of noted as being the best secondary in the NFL, and they couldn't keep pace with these wide receivers for most of the evening. And if they were throwing flags like it was 2019, there would have been another 3 or 4 that would have been tossed in this game too, on either side of the ball. I'm going to imagine too, with holding calls and things of that nature. But some of this, I don't know. There's some directive that's going on there, but they did call this one. It looked as legit could get. And then Ben finds Chase Claypool for the 8-yard touchdown. Made it look as easy as can be. Everything was just on point with the Steelers offense, except for the fact that you just gave the Ravens the ball with 7:29 to go, and you're kind of like, oh boy. And I think they have all their timeouts, or at least had 2 of their timeouts at this point. The Steelers had burned only 1 of theirs, and you're thinking to yourself, they could march down the whole field, and the way John Harbaugh is going to operate, he knows the rule books. We're talking the Super Bowl, where he took an intentional safety.
Yeah.
These guys know their stuff. And he's already plotting to how he could chew as much clock to not allow the Steelers to do anything after the fact should they score. They still got to score, but this clock's going to tick, 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 tick. And the Steelers end up stopping them, but they can't do anything on offense right after this. So you had Lamar Jackson on after the 2-minute warning, the aforementioned 4th and 3. We were talking about this play. Tony Romo was kind of like whether they kick or whatever.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson stopped by Isaiah Buggs right before this, who gets off his block, arm tackles, grown-ass man, stops this.
Oh, yeah.
Stops this.
Big time.
Fast flash phenom that is Jackson, and everybody else gets him. And then
he fumbles. He fumbles on that play, and Spillane gets the ball.
Well, this is the one right after it, too. Buggs was in on both of them.
Yep.
He was in on both of them. So, and Spillane is there to fall on the grenade. So, of course, it was a tackle with Buggs and Mika. So,
there's a narrative that comes up whenever this kind of situation occurs. A buddy of mine that I went to high school with, his name's Don. Don Roberts. Don, stop thinking this way. It drives me nuts. There is no good reason to let them score fast so you can get the ball away. Stop that narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, we should let them score so we get the ball back. No, stop them from scoring. It's a better way to win.
Zaccadonia said something about that on Twitter, too. It was the same exact thing. And here's a better game plan. Maybe just stop them.
Yes, that's a better game plan. Just stop them. And that's what they did. Fourth down. Look, this team has been, to steal from Zaccadonia, Liddy on fire, whatever the hell the things are that they say, on 4th down. They are not letting teams win on 4th down in this season, and especially 4th downs when it really counts. You go back to the Titans game, come back to this game. 4th down, they stuff Mr. MVP. Yes, I almost flipped him off, but I didn't do it. They stuffed him, and boom, Steelers ball. Yes, it would have been nice to get the first down there, but let me tell you something about that. The next series that they get, the Steelers did not play as conservative as they could have.
No,
that the first run to James Conner, totally expected. Who thought they were going to throw the ball on 2nd down? Nobody thought they were going to go empty set and throw the ball. That's some
cojones. Yeah.
Some cojones right there. That's staying aggressive. I love it. It makes me happy. Should have maybe even gotten the first down on that play. Didn't quite get it. Connor gets stuffed on 3rd. But you knew that was, that one is like,
What else are you going to do with that? And you're going to try, you got to do something that's going to chew clock or get you the first down. You throw there and it's incomplete.
Yeah, then you give them an extra timeout. Yeah.
Or a bad snap or any number of things could happen there. And it's like you're not playing with the full deck. You can't.
I might have tried a little trickeration, maybe the jet sweep with Chase that they faked him out on the touchdown. This time, let him have it and see if he can get the 1 yard, as opposed to an up the middle run that everybody assumed was going to happen. But they weren't in the right formation for that anyway.
Yeah, and it's always been out of shotgun. But how interesting would that have been to see Ben on a keeper there, and you kind of have maybe Connor behind the one guard. You have the little jet sweep look, and then Ben just kept it. And just stretches. He's big, man. He's 6'5", just whatever. Just lay your body out for it. I don't know that it was that close. It was pretty much the full yard and not like one of these, 2 feet.
Might have even been a little more than a yard, but nonetheless, so they
cheating.
Punt. Yeah.
Yeah, they punt 48 yards. You got the good one here.
Nice, good punt, and craziness ensues.
Nothing to Willie Snead on the 1st and 10. Dobbin. Oh, I said his name.
He's dead to us. He's really
I almost
dead
said
to
it
me after this game. JK can go away. That's what I'm saying.
8 yards. Incomplete. Mark Andrews, who he should have had wide open. Just a real half-ass pass right there.
Yep.
And then 4th and 2. And, you're worried about what can happen. 32-yard play. Somehow somebody loses Willie Snead here. I think this one's on Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah.
Totally, maybe. I don't know. He's somewhere in the middle of the field there, depending on where he's supposed to cover. Everybody's in a prevent, but you allow somebody to get in between zones there. It's such a tough thing. I don't know how you give up such a big chunk of play there.
That was a lot.
And they did it a couple times. They're going to look at it on film and know where their deficiencies are going forward. But that was the play where Lamar's trying to get everyone down the field. They had 26 seconds originally. They're talking about 5 or 6 seconds. I'm like, 5 or 6 is way too much in my. If you're gonna bring this back to like 11, maybe you recognize the guys down on the field. But by the time Lamar got all the way up there and they were almost ready to snap that ball, it was legitimately 8 seconds. While I was surprised they did not add. And I would have been, I'm going to be upset being a Steelers fan. I don't want to put more time on the clock. But in fairness of competition here, 10 seconds, 11 seconds, the extra 2, 3, I could have probably lived with that. If you were to went to 14 or 15, we're talking about giving them an extra down at least, the live or die. And I would not have been as cool with that. You got to figure the way these plays are going to be run or whatever. They did get one that was very quick in completion. It was only 3 seconds because you get 2 more plays run from 8 here. But they would have gotten at least 1 more extra, if not 2, had Tony Romo had his way, the way he was thinking logically. So, yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on it. But I was actually okay with the 8 seconds because I'm thinking they may have he would have snapped the ball. It would have been 6 seconds maybe.
The way I look at it,
he spikes it, of course. Yeah, snaps and spikes it.
You know that when a defensive player is injured on the field, clock is supposed to stop. You're supposed to force a timeout. So I get if Cam's down and every body part, fingers, everything crossed that he's okay. I think DK from DK Sports tweeted out that he was walking under his own power after the game. So that's a good sign. I'm hopeful. You can't take my bromance away from me. You know that. I need the cam. I need my cam. But he is down. He's on the field. He's obviously injured, and it's perfectly reasonable to expect them to give some of that time back to the Ravens because it should have stopped at some point. My guess is they couldn't figure out because they weren't paying any damn attention. They couldn't figure out when it should have stopped. So they just went, oh, well. That's my guess. Because that's the way I feel like officials work on half the things. Well, I don't know what to do, so forget it. But, I agree with you. I don't think they should have gotten as much back as Tony Romo said, but I think that Harbaugh has a legitimate complaint that he should have gotten some time back. And I'm sure he's going to comment on that.
Yeah, and, I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm sorry. I got stuck into this whole Twitter thing. People are going off on Mark Madden talking about how Robert Spillane's not good enough to start on this team. Well, unfortunately, Mark, he wasn't the starter. They had a guy named Evan Bush there. Now, the things happen that necessitate other guys filling in. That's why you call them backups. God, anything this guy could say, just he who shall not be named, Eminem, double M, whatever you want to call him, M squared.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. Mark Madden, fight me. I will kick your ass.
I don't want to go there. Anyways, I don't need to draw his attention. His guns turn around toward our battleships. We don't really need that kind of heat, my friend.
I'll take the heat if he'll fight me. Fight me.
Yeah,
fight
okay.
me, you bastard.
And he'll say we would just be using it as a promotional tool or whatever. Of course.
Of course I will. That's the whole point. I'm not pretending, but I will also take great joy in punching him in his fat face.
Yes. Well, final play of the game. Guess who comes up big? Mika. He's right there on the money to knock that ball out and make sure we aren't all crying and complaining even more about the officials as we should be for screwing us at certain times and things of that nature. So we'll just leave it as is for now and just realize that we still haven't seen Tony Corrente just yet this season or Cleet Blakeman. So the worst is yet to come, and I guarantee you that Thursday night, the Thanksgiving rematch between these two teams, remember those names, it's going to be Blakeman. I guarantee you, he always draws the assignments with these AFC North. It's either the Ravens or like when the Bengals, when they had Burfict, and it was those. He was involved in all of those games. They're always a mess. He was involved in the one Ravens skirmish many years ago. Maybe even that other one with Tomlin on the field, Jacoby Jones thing. I think that could have been him too. He's been involved in so many of them over the years. Tony, of course, is the guy who puts on his reading glasses to make it really look like he's a legitimate guy who could see what else is going on in the field when he goes in the replay booth. So he's been butchering enough games and just making me shiver knowing that he's going to show up at some point when there's another big match coming up for the Steelers. But there isn't a whole lot of those on the horizon on paper with a lot of teams that combined, 4 or 5 wins right now, maybe as the time we're recording. Next going to Dallas and what could possibly be a trap game when you're looking at, hey, we just beat the last 3 teams were all supposed to be legitimate. Well, I don't know. The Titans now are falling apart.
There's no such thing as a trap game. There is no such
thing. I know. We talk about this all the time, but I still throw it out there. So,
and you cannot call Dallas a trap game if they're looking ahead to the Bengals.
I know. Yeah, they're not looking ahead.
They can't be looking ahead to the Bengals. No, it's not a trap. Anyway, I got to tell before we get too much further because I haven't said it. Robert Spillane, grown-ass man. Sorry, you're just a gigantic grown-ass man, Mr. Spillane. Spilly is a grown-ass man. He's a legend. He's becoming a legend in this. I got to it. Juju, grown-ass man. I'm giving Bud and TJ grown-ass man awards. But I'm giving Ryan Clark a grown-ass man award for this tweet. If you don't like Rob Spillane, please unfollow me right now because that means you hate everything that's right about football.
That's so right, man. People are calling him like Rudy and stuff.
Yeah, dude his cut, stayed with it, worked his butt off, and done nothing but show up since he got his shot. Count me a fan. Ryan Clark, dead on, straight up, grown-ass man. I might even get him one last week, too, for some stuff he said. Ryan Clark is back in my good graces if he ever was out of it, which I don't remember if he ever was.
There were so many Steelers tweeting about this game before the game. So many former guys. I saw James Ferrier. I saw, obviously, Ramon Foster. There were so many guys that were talking this up. They were really geeked up to see this big clash. And now, hey, the Steelers are in rare air here, 7-0. This puts them in a real nice driver's seat, not only for the division, but the whole entire AFC, and the only bye that will be given out starting this season. No more 2 teams getting a bye. So this sets them up really nicely, and there's a lot of odds and statistics, I think, if they go 8-0 on how many teams have reached 7 or 8 wins unbeaten and have made the Super Bowl within that same season. It's happened. I know one of them was a foil to the Steelers back in 1994, the San Diego Chargers with Stan Humphries. Yeah, they were a team that started out, I think, 8-0 as well, Brian. And that's off the top of my head, so don't hold me to it.
This is the best start the Steelers have ever had. Is 7-0.
Yes,
if they get
yes,
another
it does.
win, it will be the best start to a season the Steelers have ever had at 8-0.
Yep, and if you took the over in this game, well, you got the sucker bet there because as the game kept playing, they switched this thing over to like 53.5. and then you would have needed the under. So that's the way the odds makers always work. So we're up against it, Brian. I know we're happy, we're geeked up, we're excited, et cetera, and now it's time to take a nice deep breath. We're going to relax a little bit as well and heal up and come at you later this week for the pregame against America's team or something or other. So, hey, thanks for joining me once again, my friend.
You know what? There's nothing better than this. Nothing better than this. Good to be here on a 7-0 Sunday.
Absolutely. So, well, folks, that'll do it for us here at Steel City Underground. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We always appreciate all of your support. If you would like to even support us a little monetarily, you could head on over to our website, scroll to the bottom, and click on Buy Us a Beverage. So I didn't want to do anything. YouTube will throw us off for anything, but I almost had like the little beer koozie, and then I said, they're going to get, I just have the water. I had to hydrate. I'm exhausted. This game takes everything out of me. All these games take everything out of me. So, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we appreciate all of your kind comments. Trust us, we do see them sometimes. We're unplugged for a day or two also with our very busy lives, both personal and professional. So, my name is Joe, and his name is Brian. And again, until next time, we encourage all of you great folks listening out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.